Big changes in schools, it's time to know what's shaping classrooms, where do we go? Policy shifting, rules on the move.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back, right? We had a week off because of Thanksgiving last week. I am Katina Taylor, the host of Policy Pulse, Education Edition, where we break down what's happening in K-12 education so you stay informed, you stay empowered, and most importantly, you stay ahead of the game. Again, my name is Katina Taylor. We are here every Thursday, normally 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. We have East Coast time tonight, 5:30 p.m. because I have a family situation happening. And so I want to make sure that I get to my mother's birthday is today. So celebrate her birthday. Unfortunately, she is not celebrated in the way that she would like. And so I want to make sure that I not only have my time with you all and get you the information you need, so we are staying on track and committed to our 10-part mini-series about Title I, but also so that I can spend some quality time with my family. So I know, of course, we are talking education policy, and oftentimes that can seem so overwhelming to individuals. It's a lot of noise out there. It's a lot of headlines out there. And sometimes you just don't really know what matters, how it applies or impacts you, your family, your schools, and your school districts. So that's why we're here. No spin, no fluff. It's just clear, fact-based insights on what's changing, how it affects you, your kids, your school, your community. So thank you for being with me. I want you to make sure you like, you share, you invite others into the conversation. Drop your thoughts, your comments, your questions, your concerns into the comment box, the chat box. We are live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube, and we are live on LinkedIn. So literacy is liberation is where you can find us. Our motto, our mission, right, is that we believe that once you learn to read, you are forever free. And policy directly impacts the work that we do in the literacy space. So that's why we also discuss education policy once a week here with you all. All right. So whether you're a parent, whether you're an educator, a business owner, or just someone who cares about the future of education, stick with me. Hang in here for this 10-part mini-series and what comes after. And go back and look at some of our previous episodes. You'll find those on YouTube and LinkedIn as well. So we're going to break it all down together. Just let me know where you're watching from, why you're watching, right? And tune in. Again, share this, like this, comment, and engage. We want to hear from you. I want to hear from you, all right? So that's what it is. So again, I am your host, Katina Taylor, founder and CEO of Dreams KC. And tonight, we are talking about something every parent deserves to understand. Remember that this is part 6 of a 10-part mini-series specifically addressing Title I. Title I is set aside funding from the federal government in the Every Student Succeeds Act for schools and school districts that serve a high percentage of students that come from low-income families or communities. I'll say it in that way, right? So we're going to be talking about tonight how to tell when your Title I school is not following the law, right? I've had personal experience in this space. Other families and community members have attempted to address this. Some of our unions have attempted to address this issue. And I just thought it was time for us to ensure that parents have the information they need so that they can advocate for themselves, for their students, to ensure that what is afforded to them by the law is adhered to by schools and school districts. So I do want you to know this is not about attacking schools. This is not about attacking superintendents, school boards, etc. It's not about that at all. But it is about equipping you, YOU, parents, grandparents, guardians, caregivers of school-age children with clarity, with language, y'all with me, right? And confidence to protect your child's rights. That's what this is about. So once you learn what compliance looks like, you can't unsee it. You can't unring the bell. Once you know something, and that is power. So I want to dive right in, but before I do that, I always give a disclaimer. I want to do that tonight, right? Here's the disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of me, Katina, the individual, and do not directly reflect the views and opinions of any organization that I may be affiliated with. I always like to say that because even though nonprofits, businesses, organizations can address policy, oftentimes they are fearful that they will be penalized for sharing information or talking about policy issues. One thing I will say is in the area of education, I wish that it didn't have to be political or that we wouldn't have to talk about policy, but it is a necessary conversation to have. And we have to be empowered with the tools, with the information we need so that we can advocate effectively for those that we love and care about most, and that is our children. So that's what I wanted to share with you all before we dig right in, all right? So I'm going to share my screen and we're going to talk through these slides. I'm not going to be, I always say this, I sound like an old church person, right? I'm not going to be before you very long, but we're going to hit this. We're going to give you this information. Feel free to screenshot it. Again, ask questions. I can see some in real time. So I will address any questions, comments, and concerns that you may have around this information. And I encourage you, remember, this is part 6 of a 10-part mini series. So if you have not seen parts 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, go on back to LinkedIn or to YouTube or to Facebook. Find @Literacy is Liberation. Those are our channels, and look at those previous episodes because everything builds on itself, and you need all of the information to be armed and empowered to advocate for yourself and your children and to bring other parents alongside you to address this issue of Title I. That being said, y'all ready? I'm ready. All right, let's go. I got to share my screen. This always scares me. I'm like, let me make sure I got it. I think I have it. Yes, we have it. We have it. There we go. There we go. So again, this is really about knowing the red flags, right? How to spot the red flags so that you know if your school district is not following federal law. That's what it's about, y'all. All right. So I want to make sure, yep, all right, I see the screen. I'm making sure that you can see the screen, and I think we are set to go. So these are the things that you got to learn this evening, right? What federal law actually requires. We've talked about this each and every session that we've had thus far. What it looks like when a school or school district is not complying with that law, right? And then how you can address it to bring them alongside of you. Again, this is not about attacking schools or school districts. It's not about saying, aha, I got you. It is, however, about having real two-way communication and ensuring that your rights are protected. And if, in fact, your school leaders, your district levels are not aware of what is required, you have an opportunity to collaborate with them, to inform them, to educate them so that our children are served best. That's what it's about. All right. So you'll walk away empowered with this information. Remember that you can screenshot, you can take notes, you can drop questions, comments, and concerns in that comment box. If you have any questions whatsoever, I always come back and take a look, and I would love to answer any questions or further discuss this and engage with you. All right. So here we go, y'all. So here it is. This is a quick review. This is a very, very quick review of what the federal law says that Title I schools must do, right? So I want you to understand that, again, this is from federal statute, federal law, the Every Student Succeeds Act, for short ESSA, section 1116. And it is crystal clear. A lot of language that says must and shall exist within the statute. So it is not optional. These are not suggestions. These are not nice to haves. These are required things, right? So schools and school districts must bring parents into planning. It is not okay to bring parents along after the fact. It's just not. They must hold annual meetings that truly include you, not just giving you information. That's one-way communication, but an annual meeting so that you can assess what we've done, what the return on investment is on the policies, procedures, and activities that we have subscribed ourselves to as schools and school districts, and then how we can improve the outcomes or the return on the investments that we've made. You want to communicate. The schools and school districts are required to communicate in ways that you understand. Translation services, interpreters, technology, whatever it is, right? To ensure that materials, supplies, information is given to families. We are honoring those families, their home languages. We do not want language to be a barrier, right? And it has to be two-way. So are we emailing? Are we texting? Are we doing call blast? Are we posting on our social media channels, our websites? Are we having town hall meetings? All of those ways of communicating, they are necessary and required, right? And we must, by the law, involve parents in budget decisions. How the Title I funding for parent engagement is spent. All right. Now, if you go back and take a look, there's a way in which a school qualifies for a school-wide Title I plan or a targeted Title I plan. I've talked about that at length. I talk about the funding that comes to a school or school district and the percentage that is specifically earmarked for parent engagement activities. And last but certainly not least, schools and school districts must have, not a nice to have, it's not a suggestion. They must have a real complaint process in place. So if you find that your school and your school district may be having some challenges in one or more of these areas, there should be a written policy regarding how you can make a complaint and the process that is required for you to go through to ensure that your concerns are heard and addressed. So again, these are requirements under the Every Student Succeeds Act, section 1116. And this is the standard that we measure every red flag against. It's just that simple, you guys. Okay. So I want to make sure that you all get what's required so you know where we are going. Okay. So that's it. That is where we are going. All right. So we're unpacking exactly what these gaps might look like when any parts of the puzzle are missing and your school is not meeting its legal obligations under the federal statute. That's what we're diving into. All right. So red flag number one, no joint development. What might this look like, right? And this is generally one of the biggest violations that we see, that we may experience. And it's plans that are presented to parents, caregivers, guardians, grandparents after they have already been drafted and completed, and they just submit them to you. You haven't had a voice or opportunity to participate in drafting, working on the plan, right? So if your school brings a completed parent engagement plan or a school compact to a meeting and says, here it is, we've done the work, but you haven't participated, that's not compliance. Okay, that is not following the federal law, the federal statute. Joint development means that you are a part of writing it before it is finalized. And so I think that that is really, really important for people to understand that you have agency and you must operate in your power and your agency to advocate not only what's in the best interest of your individual child or your children, but all children within that school and within that district, right? So I want to make sure parents should be in the conversations early and often, okay? You're reviewing drafts, you're asking questions, and you're helping shape priorities. When that doesn't happen, huge red flag. Okay? It's a huge red flag. You can screenshot this, you can jot down notes, you can ask questions about it, but I want you to be really, really clear that these plans have to be co-created with you. They're not done for you and presented to you. Okay, so that's red flag number one, right? So you say, oh my gosh, this has happened in my school, this has happened in my school district. What can I do about it? Right? And that's what this information right here is about. Is that when you sense this might happen, you've experienced this firsthand. Here's how you pull back the curtain without conflict. Because remember, we're attempting to maintain a win-win situation, create a win-win situation, maintain collegiality, collaboration, cooperation, right? Like we want to work together with our schools, our school leaders, our school district officials, our school board members. We do, if in fact we can. So we don't want it to seem like we are always fussing and always fighting and trying to tear the relationship apart. No, we're trying to build something that is sustainable over time, right? And so how do we do this? When we see that this is happening, you can pull back the curtain. You don't have to create unnecessary conflict, but we do want to be a firm and assertive individual or group of individuals, a collective individuals to move the ball forward, right? So you want to ask some questions like, when did families help draft this? Can we see earlier versions that show parent input? When will planning start for next year and how can we join in? Get our name on the list. Be informed of when the meetings will start happening. These aren't aggressive questions, but they are legal right questions. And you have every right to ask them unapologetically, firmly, with an expectation that they will be answered. So let me pause here because parents often will say, well, I didn't know that I was supposed to be involved in this level of decision making. Well, now you know. And yes, you are. And you always have been empowered and given the right to participate in this portion of decision making. That and when people tell you, or when you have not been told, informed, educated about your rights, that's intentional. When families don't know their rights, that means the systems are running on autopilot. Oftentimes, there's a deficit mindset or a set of biases that exist regarding parents, and that changes today. Because once you know, you can't unknow. Now you have an opportunity to walk in your power and assert the rights that have been given to you. All right. So I want you to understand that. You can ask these questions. It's your legal right to do this. You're not asking for a favor. You're asking schools to involve you in meaningful ways because these children are your most precious cargo. And you have every right under the law to participate in decisions that directly impact them in their academic journey. Okay? All right. So red flag number 2, y'all. Red flag number 2, the check the box meetings. Yes. The check the box meetings. I hate the check the box meetings, right? So once a year, there's an annual meeting that is required. And so what happens often is that parents are invited. There's some invitations that go out. They're like, you got to be here. We got to talk about this. But they happen in the mornings when a lot of parents can't come. Or they happen and translation services aren't made available. Or they happen and they give you this sign-in sheet and say you must sign in, but you're presented a plan that was drafted without you. Childcare may not be available. So significant portions of families may be left out because they don't have anyone to provide care for their children. Right? So rush meeting at 10 a.m. on a weekday with no childcare and no translation services, that's not meaningful. When the law says it must be meaningful participation. A PowerPoint that presents a plan to you with no discussion doesn't meet the threshold that is meaningful participation. A 20-minute, and I have seen less, but a 20-minute talk followed by any questions? Oh, okay, we're done. Not meaningful. And they're packing up as they do that, right? Definitely not meaningful. If a meeting is structured so families cannot effectively, efficiently, and meaningfully participate, that is not compliance and it's not partnership. And the law requires meaningful participation, right? And partnership, joint development. And that's what we're looking for, not a check the box meeting. So if in fact that happens, you show up, there's a plan that's already been created, it's up on the screen, it's really little, you can't read it. If you got old eyes like me, right? You can start asking questions like, oh, can we schedule another meeting at on an evening time or a weekend when we can get more working parents to be able to attend? Because we want a diverse cross-section of families to participate. Can all the materials be shared in the home language of our school families? If that means it's 10, 11, 12, 15 different languages, the district and the school have some work to do. And we can partner with colleges and universities, right, to get that done. Then you want to ask ahead of time, where's the agenda? Can we see the sign-in sheet that proves that this meeting happened? So don't tell me a meeting happened and parents participating in drafting the plans that are being presented, but there's no sign-in sheet, there's no agenda, there's no meeting minutes that actually indicate that that actually happened. Because if there's no paper trail, then in my mind, it didn't happen. Now, that may be my legal background, but what I'm going to tell you is that we have to have a paper trail. Okay? So I want you to make sure that you are asking these questions. Schools should be documenting everything. So you really are just simply asking for the documentation that's required by law anyway. Okay? So you can ask these questions and don't feel like you're stepping on toes. And maybe, dare I say, we need to step on some toes sometimes, so that the system is not running on autopilot and we're not doing things the way we always done, if in fact it's not legal. Y'all got me? Y'all following me? Any questions, any comments, y'all? Drop them in the comment box. I'm looking for them. I'm ready to answer. Y'all let me know, okay? All right, let's keep moving. Let's keep moving. Remember, I want you to share this with other folks. Please, please, please. And thank you ahead of time for doing that. So then you have red flag number 3, right? Missing policies and compact. You should never have to chase down these core documents. They are required. They should be on the school level website. They should be on the school district website. They should be accessible from the Title I coordinator for the school district or the federal programs officer for the school district, whatever that title is. You should be able to get these, right? So the district parent engagement policy, that's one document you should always be able to get. The school parent engagement policy. So you have a district level, you have a school level, and then you have the school parent compact. Now I know from Missouri, they have samples of these on the DESE website, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. They do. So you should be able to see what it at least looks like. You guys have kind of a bottom floor, ground floor of what this could look like, a template to work from. And these aren't optional. If the school can't find these or they keep pushing you off, something is very wrong. I'm just saying. That is an indication, a red flag, that perhaps they're not available, they haven't been updated, or they weren't created with the input and partnership and collaboration of parents. Okay? So I want you to know that's another red flag. So if in fact you are asking for these things, and you do have a right to request them and receive them in your language preference, right? Then here's a sample script I want you to use, right? You say, excuse me, Principal Jones, I don't know. Can you please send me the district policy, the school policy, and the school parent compact in my home language? If they hesitate, if they delay, probably have a compliance issue, and you've identified that pretty quickly. You want to ask for these things, and you should be able to access them just like that. It's not difficult. It's not hard because they are required. And in one of our previous episodes, I talked about the timeline. So when they are supposed to be submitted to the state versus that runway we give ourselves to create it and reiterate them with parent input and improve upon them before they're submitted to the state. Okay, so go back and look at one of those previous episodes and you'll see the timeline for that. All right, so that's number 3. So here we go. Red flag number 4, no voice in spending decisions. Remember, I told you the schools must involve parents in how Title I funds are spent. If someone tells you, well, we've already made the allocation, how could you do that and parents weren't involved? Oh, we've already set the budget. We said that at the end of last year. Well, oh, really? Where's the documentation that parents participated in the planning of the allocation of those dollars? If they can't produce that kind of information, then they probably, more than likely, have a compliance issue. They have violated federal law. You should be able to look at things should be explained to you in a way that you understand, and you should be able to give input, discuss options around spending priorities when it comes to Title I dollars. You need to know, and we talked about it in one of my previous episodes, what Title I dollars can be spent on. So if a school or a school district gives you this list of how they want to spend the Title I dollars, you say, that's great. Can you give me a justification of why we want to spend the dollars this way? Why are we prioritizing these things versus some other things? How do they support student achievement? All of those questions have to be asked. Those discussions have to be had before the money is allocated and the budget is submitted to the school board for approval. And school board members, you need to be asking these questions. Have we had meaningful parent input? Because that is your duty. And you, as an elected school board official, you represent the interests of the families. You have a fiduciary duty to ensure that their interests, their voices are heard. So ask your superintendent, ask your cabinet members that serve on the finance team. Where's the documentation so that we can ensure that parents have had an opportunity to meaningfully participate in the decision-making process around Title I funding? Okay? If you haven't had a voice in those spending decisions, we have a compliance issue and we must address it. And how do we do that? You're going to ask some questions. Here we go. Every time you're going to ask questions, you want to show up curious, not making an assertion or an assumption that you were purposely left out, but you want to approach it from a place of being curious. Oh, can you show us the Title I plan in plain language so we understand how funds are being used? Oh, how did families help shape these spending priorities before the decisions were made, before the board got the budget to vote on it? When can parents participate in budget planning for next year? Can we get that on the calendar now? SAC folks, DAC folks, you should be showing up in this space. Family and community engagement liaisons, that's your job, your role. You're facilitating relationship building between parents and guardians and grandparents in the school district, in your school. So you also want to be in the meetings with your school leaders, reminding them as a part of your role that we have an obligation to do this under federal law. So when can we set up these meetings? Can we ensure that families, we are in compliance and families are meaningfully working with us, collaborating with us to develop these plans? That's part of your role, not just the fun stuff. And I think it can be fun, but I'm nerdy. So federal guidance is clear, right? Parents must have input on how these funds are allocated. And parents, don't let anybody tell you that it is just an administrative matter. Oh, our finance team got that. You don't have to worry about it. Oh, no, I do have to worry about it because they haven't spoken to me. And I know that the law requires you to do so. So let's go ahead and schedule that meeting. All with a smile. Right? All with a smile. All right, let's keep going, y'all. Red flag number 4, surveys that don't go nowhere. We are asked to complete 1,000,001 surveys in so many different areas of our life. But if they're gathering this data, this information, they're asking us questions and then don't follow up, that's a check the box thing. It's not that you're taking this information that you've asked me to set aside time that I won't get back to complete. And I've put that time into completing the survey at your request, and then you don't do anything with it. No, you're supposed to look at, evaluate, reflect upon parent engagement activities annually. And just sending out a survey and not sharing the results or making changes based on the feedback, that is a waste of time, an exercise in futility, right? That's not evaluation. That's checking a box, as I said before. And that's not what we want to do, okay? We don't want to do that. We want to see the results of those surveys. How many went out? How many were returned? Is that a good sample size? And then what did that information say? And what decisions can we make based upon that information? That's real evaluation. That's real assessment. All right? So I want to make sure that you all understand that. If you don't see that cycle happening within your school and your school district, they're not doing what's required, you all. They're not doing what's required. So that's red flag number 5. So again, they need to show results, demonstrate impact. I always talk about the return on investment. And can parents help lead the evaluation process? See, one of the things I'm quite clear about is when we bring parents along and they're working alongside schools, school districts, school level leaders, district level leaders, the load is actually lightened off those people. If you're complaining that you're overworked, you're overburdened, and all of these things, you don't have enough time in the day, this is an opportunity to offload some of that and trust that these parents with support and guidance can help you and lighten the load. You got to trust them. You got to get rid of that stinking thinking, that deficit mindset around parents. And I say all the time, and I will continue to say, the parents of today were your students of yesterday. So if they're not showing up in the way in which you want them to show up, do you bear some of that burden? I'm just asking a question. See, I'm curious. Red flag number 6, right? No written complaint process. No written complaint process. I wish that we could be in a utopia and say, oh, we're going to do everything well, so nobody's going to complain. I don't care. You could probably have it close to perfection. There still will be someone that says, this makes me feel uneasy. I want to file a complaint. And they should have something in writing. A school district should have something in writing that actually leads you through that complaint process. That is required by law, by statute. And if someone can produce a written procedure that explains to you exactly how to navigate the complaint process, that includes a timeline for when they're going to respond and who oversees that process at each level, we got a compliance issue, right? Don't tell me just to talk to the principal as a way of just go with no formal process. Don't do that. Or, yeah, I hear you, but, we got it. Don't be dismissive. Don't talk down to your parents, school level leaders, district level leaders, without any documented response. Put it in writing and ask to be responded to in writing. What do we need? A paper trail. Accountability on both sides. That protects a school and a school district, and it gives you advocacy, power, and opportunity to advocate for yourself as well. Parents, guardians. So we need it to protect both sides in the process, all right? So that's red flag number 6. Again, what can you ask? Where's the district's written policy? What are the specific steps that we can take and the timelines for being addressed and resolved? Who oversees Title I compliance at the district level? How do I contact them? I need a phone number. I need an email address. Where's their office? And if the school doesn't resolve my concern, how do I escalate to the district? If the district doesn't resolve my concerns, how can I then escalate to the state? The department for Missouri is the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, DESE. For Kansas, it's the Kansas State District Office, KSD, I believe. All right. So I just want you to understand and know these are your rights. This is their responsibilities. We got to hold each other accountable. I often say that we can't hold parents accountable and responsible if we haven't tooled them to do the thing we're asking them to do. Same thing, schools and school districts. There's a federal statute that holds you accountable and responsible. Are you following it? And if you've been misinformed at the state level, which I've looked at the manual and some of that information is sadly not aligned with the federal statute, then oftentimes what happens is school level leaders and school district level leaders are relying on the state authority, and the state authority has not necessarily met the burden of the statute. And so it's not that they're purposely in not complying, it's just that they have been given misinformation as well. So we're learning together, growing together, and then we're going to get in compliance together. Okay? We're going to right the ship together. That's the way it goes. So I'm going to give you a couple of scenarios, right? And I want you to be able to determine, are the school or school district leaders in this scenario compliant, or is this a red flag, right? And it's really on the slide. So actually, you know what? I'm going to give you the scenario. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to give you all the scenario, and I want you to put it in the chat or the comments and see if you're right. Okay, so here we go. Let me see. Let me get to my scenarios, y'all. All right. Let me see here. All right, I think I got it. Yes, so here's scenario number 1. You show up to a meeting and someone says, welcome to our annual Title I meeting. Here's the parent engagement plan we finalized for this year. We're really excited about it. We've done so much work on it. Does anyone have any questions? Okay, great. So please sign here to show you've attended our annual Title I meeting. Is that compliance or is that a red flag? Think about it. Think about it. Think about the red flags we've talked about. Is that scenario compliant or is this a red flag? It's a red flag for sure. Parents, again, must be involved in developing the plan, not just hearing about it after it is done, right? So joint development, which is required by the statute, means that parents must help write it from the start. They review drafts and they help shape the final version. If you show up and something's just presented to you, it violates the Every Student Succeeds Act, Section 1116. Y'all should know this by heart now. And that has in it a requirement for meaningful parent involvement in plan development. Okay, so that's scenario number 1. It was a red flag. All right, so here we go. Here's the next scenario, you guys. Someone says, I've asked the school office for copies of the parent engagement policy and the school parent compact. They said they'd have to look for them, but they never followed back up with me, and it's been several weeks. When I asked again, they said that those documents were probably on the website somewhere. That happened to me for real. That happened to me for real. Is that a red flag or is that compliant? That is a red flag. Absolutely. Remember that those 3 documents, the parent engagement policy, the school parent compact, and the parent engagement policy, there should be one at the district level and one at the school level. And then you have that school and parent compact. Those 3 documents are required. They are required to be available in multiple languages. They are supposed to be easily accessible to parents and families. So that means website that can be emailed out. It can be posted on social media platforms. But parents and families should be able to easily, and your school secretary, your Title I compliance folks at the school level and the district level should be able to put their hands on them just like that. And if they can't and they are non-responsive, that's non-compliant. All right, so here's another scenario, you guys. When parents ask how they could give input on Title I spending priorities, this was the response of a principal, okay? We really appreciate your interest, but we've already allocated this year's funding according to our school improvement plan. You can give feedback next year. Is this compliance or is this a red flag? What do you think? Drop it in the comments. It is a red flag. Yes, parent involvement in spending decisions regarding Title I funds, right, must happen before funds are allocated, not after. Federal law requires schools to involve parents in decisions about how Title I funds are spent. So telling parents they missed their chance is a violation of their right to meaningful participation, especially if you didn't schedule convenient meeting times, you didn't offer translation service, childcare, transportation, you name it, to ensure that as many barriers or obstacles to participation have been eliminated. Okay, so that's scenario number 3. All right, here's another scenario. You ready? You got to know. Tell me if this is a red flag or if this is compliance. All right. The annual Title I meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. on a Wednesday. The principal presented slides for 45 minutes about test scores and programs. Let me read that again. The annual Title I meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. on a Wednesday. The principal presented slides for 45 minutes about test scores and programs. And at the end, he or she said, "Thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate you being here," and immediately left for another meeting. There was no Q&A time. Compliance, red flag. Red flag, for sure. Red flag, right? Annual meetings must include two-way communication, dialogue. That's real communication, not just presentations. Parents need meaningful opportunities to ask questions. You hear that word keep coming up? Meaningful opportunities to ask questions, you guys. Share concerns and engage in dialogue. That timing, 10 a.m. on a Wednesday, during the time when most people are at work, and the lack of Q&A both violate the spirit and letter of the Every Student Succeeds Act parent engagement requirements. Okay, so that's scenario number 4. All right, so I think that's it in terms of the scenarios that I wanted to give you guys, because I wanted to give you a little practice, like if you encounter this thing in real time, what it could look like and how you identify it. So I want to make sure, and those are real life scenarios that happen all the time, unfortunately, for parents and guardians of children in K-12 institutions. All right. So I wanted to make sure that you were aware of those things. Okay. All right. So I think we just got a couple of more things to cover, and we are out of here, y'all. Again, every Thursday, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Invite someone to come and learn more. Go back and look at some of our previous broadcasts. This is part 6 of a 10-part mini-series around Title I compliance. Okay? So I want to make sure that you all understand that, you know, and this is really the part I want you, this right here is the part that I want you to take away with you. Hear me and hear me well, that you are not, as a parent, a grandparent, a guardian of a K-12 student, be it they're at a traditional public school, a charter school, any school that receives Title I funding, okay? And that could be an independent school as well. It could, a parochial school, a private school. So you need to know whether or not your school receives Title I funding. You're not asking for favors. You are asking them to comply with the law. That's all, right? You're advocating for yourself. You are operating in your power. And I want you all to understand that you have a right to ask questions. You have a right to request documents. You have a right to meaningful participation as it relates to decisions that impact your child or children. This is not about symbolic check the box opportunities. Muffins with mom, donuts with dad, showing up for a sporting event or art display. Like all of those things are great, or some type of musical performance. Those are great things, and that is a part of it. But that is not what we're talking about here. We are talking about real, authentic collaboration and partnership with families, which is required by the law. That's what I want you to understand. Your voice matters. And when families, parents, caregivers, guardians, when you all speak confidently and consistently, you have an opportunity to change systems, schools, districts. But if you're not showing up, or if you're showing up but you're not operating in your power and you're not advocating with confidence, then no one feels a need to shift. And if we're not shifting, we're not getting better. If we're not getting better, we're not serving students well. And that's the goal, right? So I want to thank you all for being with me for another edition of Policy Pulse, the education edition. I love doing this each and every Thursday, again, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Remember, share this, like this, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on all of our social media platforms at Literacy is Liberation. I love you guys. I want to just thank you for showing up, showing out, sharing this information with other folks. That's all I have for tonight, and I will see you all next Thursday. What they say, God willing and the creek don't rise. I'll be right here again, 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Thank you so much and have a great night. And remember to operate in your power, advocate for your children. This has been another edition of Policy Pulse, the education edition.
Teachers, get in the groove.